Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up,
so you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started. And today we're going to continue talking about emotional readiness. We didn't feel like we quite got through with everything in the last episode, so we decided to have another one because we're the bosses.
There we go.
So Joy, tell us about your week. Did you do anything fun?
Yeah, so really cool creative thing that I got to do. I got to use my writing again with my other kid. Okay, so last time I talked about my son, so this time it was with my daughter. And in her American Heritage Girls troupe, the girls decided that they wanted to do the creative writing badge. And they had to write 3 different poems, 3 different styles of poems on the same topic. So it was super fun. I mean, it was just fun to see their creativity and to see them just really enjoy it. They were great. They really took it and ran with it. So that was a lot of fun.
Was Allie's about horses?
Of course.
You know her so well.
So tell us about your big thing that you made.
Yes. So I talked about it last week, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. Okay, good. So I told you guys about this big frame that I made for my mom's wedding, and it was a 5-foot by 5-foot frame. It had burlap on the back and greenery and magnolias and stuff all over it. Anyway, it was gorgeous. It turned out gorgeous. I'm going to post a picture somewhere. I don't know where. I'll let you guys know in like show notes or something. But I'll post a picture. It's so beautiful. It turned out just the way that it's probably better than I imagined it, but it's exactly what I was hoping it would be. And so that's what happened, and I'll post that because it's something creative that I'm super proud of.
And you should be. It is gorgeous. I can vouch. I saw a picture.
I did text it to her. She's my friend, y'all. You will be my friend eventually, but we have got to get there. There's some bonding we need to do. So that's that. That's what I got.
Yay. Awesome. I love it.
So what we're going to talk about specifically today as far as the emotional readiness goes is going to be 2 things. First of all, self-doubt, and second of all, imposter syndrome. So Joy, maybe define self-doubt for us so everybody understands where we're coming from as far as our foundation.
Self-doubt tends to be a lot more inward, right? So it's looking at yourself and only fixating on the negatives that you see instead of seeing your growth or your positives or those things. So I think that's probably how I would sum it up. So did you want me to say imposter syndrome too, or just self-doubt for now?
Let's just do self-doubt for right now, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna make a decision. Did you see that?
I
made one. I know. So authoritative.
Y'all do not want to go to restaurants with us because
it's so bad. So bad. Look, what are you getting? I don't know. What are you gonna get? Well, I was thinking about these 5 things.
Although if they're fried green tomatoes, we're there. That's it. Done.
That's ordered.
Yeah.
That's given.
I don't know how we got from self-doubt to fried green tomatoes.
I don't know, but I like it.
I do too. So, you might be a Southern girl if.
So yeah, self-doubt just kind of fixates on your skills that you have and how you feel like they don't hold up to your ideas that you want, where you want to be, and that you don't think that you can be that person ever. The solution for self-doubt, I think, is kind of also the same thing as imposter syndrome. So let's just roll into imposter syndrome, and then we can talk about how maybe we can fix some of these things that we do to ourselves.
Yeah. Because I think that they kind of mesh together, and yes. they kind of overlap in some ways. So yeah.
So imposter syndrome is where you are externally looking and you're seeing people that you perceive as better than you. And I do see a lot of people who just address these together without that defining line. That self-doubt is where you're looking internal and you're finding yourself lacking, and imposter syndrome is where you're externally looking and finding yourself lacking. So I think that's kind of a big deal to differentiate for us, particularly to discover that they're two different things, but maybe they can be
be managed in a similar way.
In a similar way. Yes, yeah. Thank you. It was perfect. Mm-hmm. So, and here's the thing about that, though, is that we never really know any one person intimately. And so what we see on social media or even on blogs or articles or anything like that is what is only a portion of what those people truly are. And we don't know their writing process. We don't know their creative process if it's not writing, or, we don't know any of that stuff. We can't see them as they're trying to pull their hair out behind their closed doors.
We haven't read their very first rough draft.
We haven't read their very first rough draft. And we haven't been there. We always see is somebody that we know because they have done something that has put themselves into the limelight in some way for us to be able to find them. And mentors are extremely important. We're not saying don't look up to people, because that's not the case at all. What we're saying is, please don't look at people who are running the same race as you, who might be a few steps in front of you, and lose your focus. So,
very well put. Yes.
So that's kind of what imposter syndrome is when you lose your motivation and you lose your why and you lose your path for a moment, because you see somebody else who looks like they're doing it better than you.
Yeah. And, I think another thing that we have to keep in mind is that these two things, you read about these everywhere, okay? And the reason for that is every single creative person deals with this. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's a constant process and a constant battle. And so, I think it was interesting because I actually saw Joanna Penn, who's one of my absolute just wonderful mentors that I look up to.
We love you, Joanna.
I know, she's so wonderful. Anyway, so she actually put something out today, or at least I saw it today, about this very thing and how she, dealt with that, and how the interesting thing for her was when she was going to conferences a while back, before she was quite as big as she is now, she was listening to the big names and they were saying this exact same thing, that they dealt with it too. So this is not just, you, it's everyone who has gone through this process. And it's something that we all have in common. And I think the thing that we have to remember when we're reading blog posts or we're looking at social media is, yes, most of the people that we follow try to be very honest and open and transparent with these kind of things, but that's not what they're going to post every time, because who wants to read that every time?
Yeah.
So keep all those things in mind.
And it's just a split second of their life. That's it. There are 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, 365 days in a year, and we see a split second, and we love that split second, even if it's marred with, pock marks and stuff. We're just like, yes, give me those problems, instead of my own. And that comparison between two different people, that's what's going to kill us, man. That's what's going to stop us dead in our tracks every single time. I can't remember who said this, and I'm probably going to do this a lot in this podcast because I listen to a lot of podcasts and read books and and read all the books and stuff, and I can never remember exactly where I hear things from. But there was somebody who said that the only person that we should be comparing ourselves to is the person who we were yesterday, and that if we could just be better than who we were yesterday, if we could know one more thing, if we could perform something 1% better than we did yesterday, then we win. So
And I think another thing to add on, just to go into the self-doubt part a little
Yes.
away from the imposter syndrome, with that statement, which is an excellent statement and something that definitely keep in mind, and that's super helpful. But I think sometimes too, we can get into that mentality and think, well, yesterday I did all the things and today I can't seem to put on this matching pair of socks. I mean, I can't even do that. Like, so I think we have to understand too that not every day, it's not a constant climb up a mountain. Yes. There are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be valleys. It's not going to be a straight climb to the summit. That's not how it works. So I think both of those things, it's a balancing and it's an understanding with both of those.
I think we also have to be aware of our emotional and our mental health too on that particular day. Is it better or is it worse? Are we physically tired? Are we sick? Are we just worn out? Do we have a argument or something with someone that we love? Like, those kind of things wear on you. And I think forgiveness is a big part. Self-forgiveness is a big part. And it's probably the hardest thing to do. So hard. We can forgive other people all the time, and it seems like it's just like, they didn't really mean it. But you know what? Sometimes we don't mean it, and we don't mean to hurt ourselves, and we should be forgiving to ourselves just as much as we are to other people. Another thing is something that you mentioned. I want to go ahead and bring that up too, because I think it's important. When we are in this self-doubt spiral, it is so important to have somebody there, or more than one person. If you have more than one person, I am so happy for you. But if you have someone who can just be like, you know what, you are wonderful and you are talented and you are in a funk right now, and I think you need to reevaluate the situation.
Exactly.
We need someone to be honest with us, and sometimes we can be self-deprecating, and we don't need that, and people who love us know who we are and can be like, you're being self-deprecating.
You need to stop that. Right.
So I don't know if have you guys seen, I was telling Joy too, if you've seen The Incredibles, I have to do it, Joy. I have to tell them.
That's great. I love it.
So if you have seen The Incredibles, there is this character named Edna, and she's this wee little thing who is amazing. She's like this big, but her personality is everywhere, fills the entire house. And Helen, this superhero, comes in, and she hasn't like actively been a superhero for a while, and she comes into Edna's and she's like, I think my husband's cheating on me. And she's just weeping. She's like, what am I gonna do? And Edna gets a rolled up newspaper and stands on top of the counter, because she's remember, we're little bitty, and she whacks Helen on top of the head. She says, pull yourself together. You are Elastigirl. And she's, we need an Edna. Everybody needs an Edna to remind us that we are writers. We are creations of God. We are loved. We are cherished, and we are better than what we're giving ourselves the opportunity to be, with all of the self-doubt. So I do think, and self-doubt is so hard, because imposter syndrome, you're like, oh, that's someone out there, but self-doubt is a little harder to recognize, because it sounds like truth at the moment. It feels like truth at the moment. So now let's talk about how we can maybe battle these feelings. And you had a really great idea about this, about making something. Yes. Okay. So there are probably two different type of listeners. So I have a suggestion for either one. The first type of listener, who is someone who's been creating for a while. Mm-hmm. So what my suggestion is to get something that you have created a long time ago and something that you've created currently, and compare the two and see where you have grown, because most likely the very first thing that you made is very different from the thing that you're making now. So, I read my poetry from high school, ladies and gentlemen. It is poo. Okay. So, and I gotta tell you, what I'm making now in the poetry world is just leaps and bounds over what I was making when I was 15 years old. And that feels really good to see. And it kind of helps with the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome, because it's like, look how much I've grown. Like I have the potential to learn. I can learn. This is something that can be crafted, and it's not necessarily, born with talent. And that's super encouraging. Secondly, if you are a person who's maybe just started creating, or you haven't created in a very, very long time, my suggestion is to make something. So you make something in a medium that you want to pursue, or you just want to try, and then you kind of set it aside for a week, and you come back to it and you evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses. I did say and, I did not say or. Your strengths and your weaknesses, because there is something good and beautiful in that thing that you're making. Mm-hmm. And if you can't find it, find somebody else who can. So and you also need to see weaknesses too. If you can't find the weaknesses, everybody can grow. So whatever you're feeling the weakest in, research something that you want to try differently the next time that you make something, and then make it, and then do the same thing over and over again. And what I found is that over the 10, 12 years I've been doing this, I found that nothing quenches the self-doubt or the imposter syndrome feelings more than doing. The confidence comes with the doing, and confidence and honesty, because you need to be honest about what you're making. And you need to be honest with yourself too, and know your limits, and know that you can also rise to a challenge. If you can do that, I think that you're going to have a lot less trouble with self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And the more that you do, the less time that you have to look around you. Mm-hmm. Bam. What?
Very true. Very true. Yeah. So I mean, and that's definitely, it's the same concept of, if you've got a task that you have to do that you don't want to do, and you sit there and you procrastinate, that task gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with, if you're not actually pursuing whatever this creative medium, this creative passion is, if you're not pursuing it, then you're going to sit there and say, well, I can't really. Well, I can't. Well, so-and-so is, look how great. I could never do that. And it's the exact same thing.
And how do you know that you can't if you don't try it?
Exactly.
And that is the QWERTY take on that.
There you go. Like we were saying, get you some Ednas or whatever you need, but surround yourself with the people that can help you through all of this, and that can help push you to make you better, and who can also lift you up by highlighting your positives. Boom, we hit it.
Love it. Can you hear that? It is time for the QWERTY Challenge. So what we would like to challenge you to do this week is to honestly look at a body of work under one creative outlet. If you don't have a body of work, we challenge you to create something in a medium where you feel self-doubt.
And then from there, what we want you to do is just hang on to that for the next week, because in our next episode, I'm super excited about this. We're going to be talking about how you can evaluate your own work and how you can help yourself be better in whatever it is. So you create whatever that is this week that you are concerned that you have some self-doubt in. Get that created and hang on to it for next week. Just set it aside. Don't even look at it. Don't worry about it. Just set it aside, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY Writing Life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY Writing Life rocks ice for real,
oh my word,
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.